Very good. So I wanted to welcome everyone here. Let me just go back here. If you don't know who I am, I'm Melissa Washington. I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm also the CEO and founder of Women Veterans Alliance. And we are bringing to you our Wednesday webinar series, which we have webinars scheduled all the way out until August. So we have some fantastic content that we will be continuing to share with you. And if you saw from your reminder email that we are using an app, and it's an app, we're just piloting the app. It's an audience graph app. It's opportunity for you to engage, let us know how you feel about the specific topics. Also, all you have to do is just an easy, quick little tap on the app. The different topics will change throughout the presentation, and you don't need to download anything. It's just you click on the link. You can do it on your computer, on your phone. If you are here right now on the app, you can click the I'm here to let us know that you are here. So feel free also to slide the bar at any time to let us know how you are feeling about the presentation. All right. So with that, if you're not familiar with our organization, we are a nationwide organization with our primary focus is to connect women with each other and women with resources. And that's what we're doing here today. We are a membership-based organization. Being a member is not a requirement for the Wednesday webinar series. There are some fantastic benefits if you are interested in becoming a Women Veterans Alliance member. So you can become a member. You can always just email me if you have any questions. If you're not connected with us on social media, we are on every social media platform for the most part. I don't tick or talk. But we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Feel free to connect with us. Also, too, on Facebook, we do have a Facebook page, and we do have a private Facebook group, which we vet each woman before she joins the group to make sure that she has served in the military or currently served. And the link down here, if you're interested in joining Women Veterans Alliance, is listed on here. If you haven't heard of the Unconference or you've heard about this Unconference, that is our annual signature event. It's taking place October 8th through the 10th at the Tropicana Resort in Las Vegas. It's an amazing 3-day weekend for some of you. If you've been to our conference, it's our 6th one coming up. You know, feel free to share in the chat or how you've enjoyed the event. Early bird pricing does end at the end of this month. So I highly recommend, if this is something that you want to partake in, is that you get registered now for an amazing weekend. We are calling it Restore Your Soul, as I feel we all need a little bit of restoring, and I guarantee you we're going to restore your soul that weekend. All right, so like I said, we've got August. We have everything planned out to August. We're kicking off May. We have 3 other webinars scheduled for the month of May, and you can sign up via our webinars page on our website. So as you can see, we've got 3 of them coming up. Very great presentations. Also, too, if you are a member, for those of you that joined us this morning, we did have a mentor program session that's exclusively for our Women Veterans Alliance members. It started this week. It's a 6-week bi-weekly program. So if you're interested, if you're a member, you can still jump on and join us in 2 weeks for that. And again, another great benefit to be a member, as you have to be a Women Veterans Alliance member to participate in this specific mentor program session. So I don't want to take up her time because she has a lot of stuff to share with you. So I'm going to introduce Linda. Here we go. So I got to put on my glasses. Linda Hinkle is a former Army combat medic who has dedicated her life to the study and uplifting of other women veterans like herself. She owns her own Women Veterans Empowerment LLC called Badass Lady Talk, and has traveled around the country to talk with organizations, schools, and groups of women veterans to help improve and support understanding of women veterans within this entities, and to uplift other women veterans, fellow badass women, and I love that word, just like her. She lives with her Army veteran husband and her 2 beautiful sons in Tennessee. All right, Linda, I'm giving it all to you in beautiful Tennessee. You're in the backyard, lovely. It's all yours.
I am. I'm on my back porch today. Please know I can't control the birds. So if they get a little loud, I'll make hand gestures at them with that you guys can't see while I'm sharing my screen. So I just want to say that I am thrilled and honored to be here with all of you today. It is, I tell you, when I was in the Army, you don't think about spending time, I don't think, with the women that you're serving alongside of. I didn't. I was too busy worried about the mission and too busy worried about where we needed to be next and what I needed to be doing with my unit. When I got out of the military, I found that there was a great big kind of hole there. My husband's an Army medic, just like me. We loved it so much we married into it. So it's nice to have him, because he understands a good bit of what my service, would have looked like. But it's nothing like being in a room with a lot of other women that have served as well and have a deeper understanding about some of the things that, he might not and that our spouses might not. So I am honored to be here with you today. And I thank each and every one of you for your service very much. No further ado. I want to tell you ahead of time, I like to have fun. Please have fun with me. PowerPoint is supposed to be boring. I refuse to do boring PowerPoint. So we're going to have some fun. I'd love if you get involved. Please, if you have anything that you want to say, jump into the chat. Melissa, interrupt me. I don't care. I want to hear from you guys today too, while we're going through this, because that is an important piece of it for me. So here we go. Let me share my screen, ladies. Bear with me just one moment. I'm going to pull this up for you. All right, ladies. So we're here today to talk about women veterans. And I'll tell you the one thing that I've sort of discovered myself as a woman veteran from talking to other women veterans and from doing research about women veterans. They don't ever talk about our strength, our resilience, and our service. They focus a lot on our fitness to serve, which I kind of think is a moot point since we've been doing this thing now for over 100 years. They focus a lot on, military sexual trauma and on, post-traumatic stress and things along those lines. And they also focus on a kind of disturbing topic for me, which is the invisibility of women veterans. I did a lot of work in higher education working with veterans, and I can tell you that most of the research you're going to read talks about women veterans as if they dissipate into sort of smoke, into this invisible cloud once they hit campus. And I hate, and I often wonder if that invisible status is something that we take part in, or is it something that's forced upon us? Let's talk a little bit about women veterans, shall we? So I like to focus on 3 areas: our history before service, because no matter what your drills, DIs, or folks who were in charge of you during your basic training period thought, you are not a blank slate. You do come into service with all of the experiences in your history. I also like to look at our service within the military, because I believe it changes us and sort of forms us into these new integral people that take on, this service to the United States, and then our life following service. And so I think looking at the 3 parts of a woman veteran are very important. Who are we? So we make up approximately about 20% or so of new recruits coming in. Right now, there are about 2.2 million living women veterans in the United States that have laced up their boots for service. There are a higher percentage of women veterans that are between ages 35 and 64 than women non-veterans. And you can see the ratio as far as what we look like demographically. And I'll be honest with you, I love the diversity inside the military with the women that I served with. I think that having that diversity is a true key to our success, not only in life, but as a service overall. And I know that women veterans are now more likely to have ever been married than a non-woman veteran. In 2015, little ancient research, but it's 84% of women veterans who are currently married, divorced, widowed, or separated, compared with 72% of non-veteran women. So we are those women who are more likely to be single moms. We are more likely to have a family. We are more likely to have a job and be going to school in some cases. Some of us work 2 jobs. It's a beautiful diversity of women who serve. So what do we do? Well, inside the military now, since the ban on women in combat positions has been lifted, we can do just about any damn thing we want to do, which is the way it should be. There is an incredible amount of combat identifier jobs that have now been opened up for women inside the military. In the past, women have served in jobs that range from everything from support services like medical, like a combat medic like myself, and everything in between. Women are medics, officers, enlisted, doctors, lawyers, you name it, we do it. And unlike what a lot of people think, if you had a job as a truck driver, good friend of mine was an 88 Mike, and she was a truck driver, and you would think that that job is not something that you would ever face danger in. Please let me be the first one to tell you, you should never judge a person by what their job was when they were inside the military. It would be a bad mistake to make, because my 88 Mike friend had an IED explode. So it's interesting. Anybody here wear gear that sort of shows them to be a veteran? Do you wear hats? Do you wear t-shirts? Do you guys use that thumbs up, thumbs down app that we got going on? Because word on the street is that we don't like to identify ourselves as much as male veterans do. My husband went out and bought me a hat, the veteran hats. Mine was pink, though, with white writing on it. And he would wear the black one with the yellow writing, and I would wear mine out to the grocery store. And it would frustrate him to no end that we could be walking through the grocery store, I'm wearing my veteran hat, and people would not recognize me as a veteran standing next to him. He would get all the thank yous for your service, and it would be really frustrating and upsetting for him. So he would usually sort of be that person who would say, hey, my wife served too. She was a combat medic just like me. And you get those, like I was at home eating bonbons from my comfortable chair as a combat medic, as opposed to my husband who, had a more serious service. He went out and bought me one of those black and yellow hats because he felt like that might be the problem. The color of the hat was the issue, and started wearing it. And I've got my pins. I was 3rd ID and 1st AD during most of my service. And so I've got my pins on my hat, and that just confuses people, because when someone military comes up to me and I'm a woman and I've got an infantry or armored division pin on my hat, this is very confusing for them. Happens a lot at the VA. But it still didn't help. What is it with, being a woman in service and not being recognized for that service, which is kind of where I like to start talking about that whole invisibility thing. Some of these cartoons they do about women different battle alongside a woman, and she says, you tell me. So women in service, unless you've served as a female member in the military, it's very difficult to understand that our military training is enough to just categorize us as a diverse culture in and of ourselves. The military community, it really represents diversity worldwide, as different cultures, races, religions from different places, spiritualities and backgrounds, genders and beliefs and nationalities come together to make a portion of the United States fighting force. Our military culture should be recognized, I think, as diversity within diversity. If you look at some of the Service Women Action Networks or SWAN's data that I love to kind of look at, because they get a good turnout from women when they start doing surveys. They surveyed nearly 2,000 women veterans and active duty service members and found that gender bias consistently cited as a significant problem facing women and women veterans. So who here feels like they've ever been in a room and have been either ignored or seen as less simply because you are a woman? Yeah, I see those hands. You're not alone. Please hear me say that you are not alone. Unfortunately, I think some of us would like if we could be the only ones who are experiencing that. According to the SWAN report too, they also were asked if they felt their service was recognized and as valued as the men who have served, and 74% said no. 80% though, regardless of the issues known to face women in military service, said that they would recommend a career in service to other qualified women, which I just think speaks to the way that we are built, constructed, the way that we think, regardless of the crap we may have had to have waded through. We see value at some level in our service and feel like that's value that another woman could experience as well. Deployment and women in the military. So you hear, with the raising of the guys for combat, there was a lot of news about women going into these really, all male sort of units and that sort of thing. I know that most recently, the first group of women Marines just graduated from basic in an area where that has never happened before. So that's just utterly cool. So things are changing slowly, y'all. It's a grind. I mean, it's taken us 100 years in service to get to this point. But I'm willing to grind and I'm willing to be outspoken about it as we go, because I feel like sometimes we have to be the teachers. I know that's sometimes uncomfortable, especially when we're talking about, exposure to traumatic events, but there's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's the misconception that women suffer from post-traumatic stress in a lesser percentage than men. That's untrue. The percentages are nearly equal, okay? It is such a slight difference you would not know. Military sexual trauma does not just happen to women. It happens to men also. But it feels like sometimes they like to shove us in these boxes and it makes them more comfortable. And when I say they, I'm talking about everybody else but another woman veteran, pretty much. I'm not just talking about men. Please understand that when I served, I had the honor to serve alongside some amazing men. But I also served alongside some that weren't amazing too. And I want that to be a clear point as we kind of go along. I'm not shuffling every male veteran into the same box, nor am I shuffling every female veteran into the same box. So I don't like boxes. But things like exposure, possible exposure to things such as sexual assault, sexual harassment, non-combat related training injuries, combined with the sort of societal pressure that we have on us. I mean, when you get out of the military, how many of you have ever found yourselves explaining to another woman why you would go do that? Why would you go do that? Why would you go, who wants to be, in around a bunch of dudes in the military and dirty and doing all this stuff, and who wants to do that? I have had to explain that so many times till I am blue in the face. And I'm thinking, why don't you ask men that question more often? Because they don't get that question the way that we do. Men get, thank you for your service, and you're so brave, you're so awesome, but yet people sort of hitch up their noses and look at women like we're a puzzle to be solved, which drives me batty. But combat identifier jobs are opening up new fields to women and social support. So when we get out of the military, when I got out specifically, we can talk about me. I had no idea what to do with my life. I was, not expecting to be out of the military. I was expecting to re-up. I got put out on disability, and it kind of came out of nowhere and just sort of swept my life up. And if I hadn't had my husband and the support circle that I had, I don't know what I would have done, which is why I love groups like this one that offer women the opportunity to sort of gather together, make connection with each other, and support one another, because that's huge, because nobody's going to understand you better than someone else, I think, who served alongside of you at some point in time. And I don't care if they were in the Navy and you were in the Army or whatever. So social support is a huge piece of this. And I think that women, when they get out of the military, they find themselves in this sort of unique position. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go along. So women in transition, women who are going from warrior to student to professional. Female veterans often feel that they become invisible after they leave service. I think I felt invisible during service. I don't know. Anybody else feel like you were, or at least your gender was expected to be invisible during service? Like they expected me to do my job. I wasn't allowed to have lady troubles. I shouldn't be going in and getting a GYN. I mean, there was a lot of stuff there that sort of was meant to sort of repress the fact that I was female. Often women don't want to self-identify as veterans. Gosh, I wonder why. And I think that we need to find a way to sort of understand that on a deeper level, because I don't think any one of us who has served should be put into a place where they feel like they need to be quiet and silent and invisible. I think that causes people to be too far inside their own heads. They don't connect, and problems can come from that. Women are amazing at boxing up a problem and putting it on a shelf and saying, I'll look at that later. I got 1,500 things I got to do right now, and I'm not dealing with that. But eventually you run out of shelves, right? Or boxes to put stuff in. So military service in and of itself somewhat defeminizes women. And it's sort of contrary and a contrary experience to cultural norms, which is why we get all those questions, especially from our female friends saying, why would you want to go do something like that? It just doesn't compute for them. When these same women return to civilian status, there's a myriad of unexpected challenges and associated with deeply psychological transformation for them. So I had a hard time just being a gal again and getting in sort of the swing of things, like getting a mammogram done, like setting up a regular GYN thing. I was ignoring my own health in a lot of ways, which is not good when you're a woman because things can sneak up on you. And a stark lack of sort of peer support post-transition is often noted by female veterans. I would have given up ounces and ounces of gold to have had a female mentor who was a woman veteran that I could look up to when I was in that period of leaving the military, when I was going to school and getting 3 different degrees, when just to be able to look up at another woman veteran and say, hey, she did that. I can now go and do this. Just to have sort of that mentorship, that kinship with other women veterans would have been tremendous for me. And so sometimes women veterans can feel not fully accepted by their civilian counterparts, and they struggle with finding groups of peers in which they feel supported and encouraged, which is what it's all about. So women veterans do a lot. I mean, they leave military service. Sometimes it takes you a minute to get your feet back up underneath you, but eventually people usually make their way either to school or into a job. Or you do the at-home mom thing, which I did. And please hear me say, that's a job. I don't care what anybody says. So women veterans can face pretty unique challenges when they're coming back into things like higher education and into a job. Women veterans are more likely to be homeless leaving military service than any other group. Hear me say that out loud. So you leave the military, financial support that you had is gone, that, just knowing what your day was going to look like ahead of you is gone, and it literally pulls the rug out from under your feet, or at least it felt like it did for me. So women come into higher education and they are often asked to suddenly go from being this person who was this military service member into being, a civilian, a veteran, a woman, a student, a professional, a working professional. And what does all of that look like? And how do we switch to those different roles? It's not easy to transition into that after military service. So women veterans often struggle, not just within campus as students, but in their jobs and employment, to find other women veterans that they can connect with inside those agencies. And so because of this, women veterans they may hesitate actually to sort of participate in anything on campus or to participate in groups just like this one, that are sort of designated to help facilitate their transition and to give them groups to depend on. Having spent time in a really male dominated environment They may feel a distinct desire to separate themselves from any kind of program that talks about the military. And I totally get that, because I did that probably for the first 5, 6, 7 years following service. I didn't want to be around anybody who, I didn't want to be reminded of my service, because I had some bad stuff that happened during my military service. But women veterans in higher education are doing it better than anyone else can. Please hear me say that out loud. They are scoring higher and graduating and attaining more degrees than their male veteran peers, than their non-veteran male peers, than their non-veteran female peers. Women veterans have the highest GPA, typically, across campuses across this United States. And that means that everything that happened to them before service and anything that might have happened during service means that they're coming out on the other side, when a lot of people are doing research that shows women veterans are supposed to be broken, which I hate that word, but women are kicking ass in higher education, and they're kicking ass inside employment, and they're kicking ass inside their jobs. So one of these things is not like the other. So let's talk about why we're here, y'all. The strengths of women veterans, which I love. I'm a social worker, so talking about the strengths of a person suits me a whole lot more than talking about anything else. So let's talk about resilience, y'all. Resilience does not mean that you have spent your life experiencing easy things. Resilience means that you have walked through some terrible crap and come out the other side of it still talking, ending, and still breathing. It has been said that women veterans have a different kind of ability to sort of encapsulate stressors and pressures, which was that whole putting it in a box and sitting it on a shelf to be able to keep driving forward. They have shown great strength in being able to balance multiple responsibilities. Like, how many of y'all out there, I see the claps. How many of y'all out there have experienced a student? Yeah. How many of you had to work a job at the same time? How many of you were taking care of kids at the same time, or had an ailing family member that you were trying to support and assist? I mean, how many of you were doing it as a single parent? So I've got a good friend. She just finished up what is her next to last semester in one of the most demanding engineering programs in the state of Tennessee. She's a Marine. She's got 4 kids. She's got a busier social schedule with those children than any human I know. She's a 4.0 student. She plows through whatever is in front of her, much like most of the women veterans that I've had the honor of being able to know. And although we are the most questioned about our service, and despite experiences during our service, vast majority of women veterans would recommend service to other women. And despite many factors, women keep pushing through barriers to break glass ceilings inside and outside of service. I'm not getting political, y'all, but the last time I did this, we did not have a woman vice president, which just tells you that there's no limit to what women have been and can do. So let's talk about resilience, y'all. It's the most common outcomes for veterans. That's what I believe. Resilience is the most common outcome for veterans. And this is not gender exclusive. We have motivation and attitude. We're used to that hard work, right? Skills in being able to work independently and inside a group. We are dedicated. We are disciplined. We have matured beyond our years in most cases. So when you're looking at a veteran, age really is just a number. We're mission oriented and focused. We know how to follow marching orders. We know how to set goals and get to those goals. You know, people will tell you about multitasking, that multitasking isn't something that actually exists. I beg to differ. I have seen women veterans multitask better than anyone I know. So I know that that's truly there. Multitasking or multiple attention, whatever you want to call it, right? Our connections off campus are important. Our family, our friends. and female veterans, the strengths in being a woman veteran and connecting with other women veterans. You put a bunch of women veterans, and I don't care when they served, in a room together, and amazing things happen. These amazing conversations and these amazing connections that grow. So let's talk about possible challenges, y'all, because this is where we're going to get to talk about a woman veteran. So let's talk about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. So ACE scores are something that are completed, and they look at history of a veteran before they came into service. And so they look at things like physical abuse inside the home as a child. They look at sexual abuse inside the home as a child. They look at homelessness and things like that. Women actually have a higher level of homelessness when compared to their male veteran peer counterparts before entering service than anyone else. Women service members have a higher prevalence of ACEs related to physical abuse, emotional abuse, violence, sexual abuse before coming into military service. Some would argue that these are reasons why people joined the service, to get away from, a violent, difficult home situation. That was certainly true of me, for sure. And if you look at a couple of these different studies, they started looking at about 520 women veterans who were receiving care inside the Veterans Administration health systems, 6 women healthcare centers, 1 research that noted that half of them acknowledged physical or sexual abuse before entering the military, and that 86% of those indicated enlisting to escape that abuse or distressing environment. In addition to that, there are struggles with gender, deployment, transition, childhood traumatic events. Women inside the military and women veterans may also struggle with feeling connected, even with other veterans, finding staff and faculty or peers inside their working environment that they can feel a connection with, trusting non-military and military personnel, especially in a male-dominated environment. With being identified as a veteran, as most people do not think of women, when they ask what a veteran looks like. I've always said, if I ask all of you guys to close your eyes, it would be a different experience. But if I walked into and asked them to close their eyes and envision what a woman veteran or what a veteran looks like, very few of them would ever think of a woman. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that we sort of have to climb over, is getting people to sort of realize that after 100 plus years of service, we're here. And we ain't going nowhere, right? And our numbers just keep increasing. So life off campus that demands our attention, a spouse, children, an elderly relative, someone with a disability, whether it's you who has a disability from service or whether it's a loved one with a disability. Women have less access to necessary things like mammograms and sexual health care, and they wait longer for appointments and often cannot see the same healthcare provider twice. I got a friend who drives to Virginia to get her necessary GYN care from Tennessee, y'all. So 1/3 of our VA medical centers still do not have gynecological staff. That's nationwide. 2% of all VA health facilities offer mammogram services. 2%, y'all. And I understand with community care, we have the ability to access things, and that's great. But for once, I'd like to walk up in a VA and have a women's center or something that's there specifically for women who serve, because pushing us out into the community just keeps us out of the VA, which makes it feel like we don't belong there, which I disagree with. So, and homelessness is one of our next biggest issues to sort of tackle, because women are getting out of the military and coming back into the world, and they are in a position where they are more likely to be homeless than others. Military sexual trauma. So a lot of women will praise the care that they receive in the VA across the country. I've got some amazing doctors, and I feel very fortunate to have them. But sometimes just walking through the VA can be a difficult journey for a woman veteran. Sometimes women have been harassed. Sometimes they have been assaulted by male veterans. And they also have their status questioned a lot, their status as a veteran, which can be extremely uncomfortable. 1 in 4 women veterans has experienced sexual or gender-based harassment inside a VA medical center. Military sexual trauma, the numbers are off the charts for what they should be, not just inside the different branches of the military, but in our officer training schools as well. And so these are experiences that women may have experienced during their service. Doesn't mean every woman has, but it does mean some of them may. So veterans and suicide, women veterans, I think that when we start adding a tag on women and start calling them things like invisible, we need to understand that when we do that, we're forcing them in many ways into a cone of silence. This can keep them from connecting. It can keep them from reaching out. It can keep them from having the comfort level to do either of those, which I think can lead to higher numbers in suicide. Not being able to get the sort of assistance as far as mental health care that we need, or to talk with someone about military sexual trauma if that's something that we experience during service. All of those sort of lead us to a point where we need to sort of shine a light on women veterans, because we all hold the key to assisting and supporting these amazing and exemplary women that are currently serving and have served our country, just by giving a damn and recognizing them for their service and making them feel more comfortable to be able to come in. So I want to do a quick activity with you guys, and then I'm going to open up the floor for questions. So I have permission from a woman veteran to sort of tell her story today. And I want you to kind of think about this in the way that we sort of talked about it from the beginning, that before service, during service, following service sort of thing. So this young lady was 18, living at home in a small town, like I'm sure a lot of us were in, just before we came into service. She was in a home where there was a lot of alcoholism, where there was a good bit of drug abuse on the adults' side of the house. And so going into the military sounded like a dream for her. So she was also 18 and say naive. So going into the United States Army, this young lady did really well through basic training. She sort of fit in the military. It was almost like the place where she's supposed to be. And she got into AIT, into her training school. And at that first weekend, when they sort of cut everybody loose on weekend pass, she was sexually assaulted by one of the other trainees inside her unit. And she struggled a good bit after that. She struggled with PT. She struggled with the ability to want to kind of carry on and serve. But she knew what she had waiting at home. Before she left, she was basically told, don't come back here. If you don't make it in the military, you're not coming back here. So she had no home to go back to. So it was, get over it and get down to the nitty gritty and fight forward, which is what she did. She went through AIT, she served honorably, she got out, and the first marriage that she had was abusive, to the point where she had to get a protective order, and the sheriff's department was urging her to leave town without telling anybody where she was going, because her spouse was that abusive and that sincere about harming her. So she managed to kind of make it through that and got on the other side of it. And when she did find a good spouse, had kids, started contemplating going back to school, like to get a degree, because at that point her military service was probably the only thing she could put on her resume. And she was scared and worried about starting what would be the next chapter of her life. I'm sure a lot of us have been there. So by show of hands, who here thinks that this young lady could start school and be successful, carrying the weight of everything that's happened, knowing that she hadn't talked to any professionals, knowing that she didn't really have a support group? Show of hands, y'all. I'm going to give you a second because I want to sort of see this. See, I love these hands going up. So Would it surprise you, ladies, if I said that that woman we were talking about was a total success? And I'm thinking it's not going to be a surprise to you guys at all. But that woman was me. I was raised by my grandmother. I lost her at the age of 16, moved in with an aunt and uncle who were extremely abusive, and was damn sure not going to stay in that house. I was going to get on the other side of that as quickly as I could. And so I got out of there and went into the Army, went through basic, did well, went into AIT, and hit a real hard wall. I mean, I damn near failed my physical performance stuff and was put out of the military at that point, but nobody was busy asking me why. And I never reported what happened to me because I saw too many women who were forced to leave service. And that was not going to happen to me because I didn't have a place to go back to. So, I got married. That was a mistake. My first husband was extremely abusive. When I finally got out of that situation and got out of it safely, I got remarried. My husband now, we've been together for 24 years. He's amazing people. And, finding that connection with him has helped me sort of erase some of that bad crap that I was carrying around with me for a while. But I'm going to be honest with you. I was angry, y'all. I was angry at the military. I was angry, at the person who had hurt me. I was angry. I was angry there for a little while. Bless my husband for deciding he wanted to take that on. But I want to talk about how I was able in my own way to sort of overcome maybe or adapt through the things that have happened. I had a tough life growing up, but I had one amazing grandma. And so if I can point back to anything that would give me the strength to sort of sally my way through this, it was her. I had people who encouraged me to talk and to open up. Now, I may not have wanted to for a while, and I honestly didn't seek counseling for a good long while until it felt comfortable to me, because that was when it became important. And when it felt like I needed it, that's when I needed to go. And so I decided I wasn't going to be invisible or silent anymore. I wanted to help other women veterans and other women face the challenges that they needed to overcome and see the strengths that they do have. I had amazing women mentors to look up to. They weren't veterans, but I had amazing women to look up to through my life, and especially during my time in higher education. And I had my village that helped me feel comfortable and find my voice and start using it. And so today, you guys are a part of that amazing village. Every time I talk about this, or I tell my own story, or I talk to other women veterans, it's a huge deal for me because it's healing along the way. I can't begin to tell you how important it is to find support and resources. I'll tell you a little bit about my younger son here in just a second. So you need to cultivate those personal relationships with the people who know and love you the most. You need to assist other women veterans to find and cultivate relationships with other women veterans on campus and in the real world, which is exactly what this group does every day. And that's so tremendously important. You need to look at areas on campuses, such as your veteran resource areas or your diversity areas inside jobs and employment, to make sure that veterans have the opportunity to connect outside of male-dominated groups. You need to hold events to recognize women for their service, offer service, resource, and hiring fairs that are specific to women veterans. And don't be discouraged by low attendance numbers. Numbers ain't nothing but a thing, y'all. If 2 women show up, you help those 2 women, and that's what matters the most. So my youngest son at age 12, I was getting ready to go off to NatCon and do my first presentation, and he looked at me and said, "Mama, you're a strong lady. You need a theme song." So I have embraced my youngest son's way of thinking. And so everywhere I walk inside a theme song that tells me I am badass and awesome, and I want to do. And if you don't hear anything else that I said today, I want to say to all of you is that you have already accomplished so much in the things that you have done. they call us the 1% of the 1% for a reason, because we were willing to put on that uniform and get out there and serve. It's not something everyone does, y'all, and it isn't something everyone should do, because some people should not be in the military, but we did it. And if you can do that, there's nothing that sits in front of you that you cannot do. So I want to kind of stop there and give you guys, I know we can go up to an hour, so we've got about 15 minutes. Does anybody have a question? Anybody want to say anything? I'd love to hear from you.
And feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself.
I'm going to put myself on.
Hi, I'm Tori. I'm a social work student. I'm in graduate school. I actually met Linda at NatCon in, I think, was it Orlando or LA?
It was LA.
Okay, yeah, man, life freaking changing presentation. I freaking cried. And I was actually really shocked to see there were a bunch of males in that room. It was freaking crowded, y'all. Just such a powerful story. Oh my gosh. I talk about Linda all the time with the female veterans that come in here. And oh my gosh, you just need to write a book, Linda. I don't really have any questions other than, like, I noticed you used to work at the VA, and I was wondering what encouraged you to step out of that cushy federal job to do this, because, like, I want to work in that kind of capacity. I hate the VA as a patient, but and it's just the system. It's not specific practitioners. It's like the lack of the longevity. And they rush through interventions, which I'm not a fan of. And I want to be in there to, like, implement change in the way that I can. So, like, how is that transition for you?
There we go. So I have to tell you that, so LA was a trip. As much as you were crying, you should have seen me in my room after my presentation. I was a hot mess. I called my husband on the phone. He said, they gave you a standing ovation, didn't they? And I went, I love you. Yeah, they sure did. So coolest moment of my life. And every moment afterward where I've had the opportunity to be able to do this has been a tremendous thing for me. But I'll be honest with you, Tori. So I was working at the VA as a social worker. And I actually enjoyed the job, but I had 7,500 patients, y'all, and I'm one human. That's people potentially who can call you, right? That's not enough social workers. Hear me say out loud, not enough. 7,500 veterans deserve more than me. I mean, I know I'm a badass and everything. You can look at my business card, but I discovered pretty early in that the system was in such a shape that they were going to do the work they could with the people they had. And that was the truth. And I was bringing it home with me. I was worried about my patients outside of my job. It was eating my soul alive. And so I had to make a decision, and it became pretty easy for me. I said, I'm either going to do this badass Lady Talk LLC thing and go around making people feel good, or I'm going to continue to try to work inside the Department of Veterans Affairs and feel like I'm knocking my head up against a brick wall every day that I go in here. So which one am I going to do? What do you want to do? What's the statement that you want people to say about you when you're not here any longer? And I really wanted people to be able to say she did everything she could, man, to try to connect with other women veterans and to let them know that they're not alone. You're not alone. There are women out there who've experienced worse things than I have. There are women out there who did 25 years in service and never experienced anything. Like, I had a conversation not that long ago with a young lady who'd spent 25 years in and had never had a bad experience, y'all. Never been harassed, never anything like that. And I was so happy for her. I think people think I'm going to be mad about that. Please hear me say, if you have an amazing story of service, I'm thrilled for you. I want you to talk about that amazing story of service. And I will tell you today that I served 5 years inside the United States Army and would have stayed if I could have, even after everything that happened. But I loved my job as a combat medic and being able to help people. So it was all about connection for me. Tori, I miss your face, man. It's good to see you.
We've got a few more minutes. Anyone else?
I'd like to share. My name is Ann Martin, and I went into the military in 1979. I was married when I went in, so we were married military. I was stationed, my first duty station was in Tampa, Florida, and I was totally invisible. When I went into service, they had just came out with computers. So I was one of those who could type 100 and something words a minute, do shorthand, because back when I was in school, we did Greg shorthand, all that old stuff. And I became the squadron commander's secretary because she had become pregnant. Well, there was no respect for me. He had to step in every step of the way. And it had gotten to the point that my husband, my then husband, couldn't respect my visibility. And so I end up getting out. We had made a rule. Matter of fact, I was married first, and I had agreed if I get pregnant, I would get out. Worst decision I could have made, because even though life wasn't beautiful, I was determined to continue because my father had retired from the Air Force. And so now I'm in, and I just wanted to make it. I was listening to Melissa's story the other day, and I could just relate to everything she had to say. But the resilience that we learn and the resilience that we have is remarkable. But I was in a non-war time when I was in the service, so I was not recognized. Nothing happened while I was in. I had to fight. Matter of fact, my GI Bill, I was under the Montgomery, and it expired before I even got to use it because I didn't even know it was an expiration date, nor did I get an out processing. Just amazing. It was 30 years before I felt like a veteran, and that happened here in Sacramento when I got sick and went out to Mather. I was working on Mather, and one of the people I worked with said, "You don't look well." She said, "Aren't you a veteran?" I said, "Excuse me? So didn't you say you were in the Air Force?" I said, "Yeah, I was." "Well, you're a veteran. Why don't you go on over to the VA?" They treated me like a queen. They found me in the system just based on my social. And from that point forward, I met a lady named Rebecca, and my gosh, my life has changed. And I kept seeing Melissa. I've been very, very busy, and I said, I gotta meet this woman. I know I've seen her before. And within the last month, I have fallen in love with her and the Women's Alliance. I've aggravated her in the last few days, but I just want you to know, I'm enjoying hearing your stories, and it's not much different than stories way back. Thank you for the time.
Yes, ma'am. And let me tell you something. You said 1979, right? You realize the reason that I was able to serve is because of women like you. You know that, right? I was born in 74, y'all. I'm going to date myself here a little bit. Please hear me say that I learned typing and stuff too. So, but because of women like you, we stand on the shoulders of these amazing ass women who came in before us, right? And allowed us to stand up so that others could climb up on our shoulders and stand up further and further down the line. I love you so much. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I love you back.
Linda, and Ann, I want to just follow up and say, as someone who got off active duty 2 weeks ago, after 8 years and worked with special forces and did all that stuff that, women don't do, but I did it. thank you guys for paving the way. I want to say that I do think it's gotten better because there are individuals like people on this call, like Melissa and a few of the others, that are doing things to make a difference. And so I will say that my experience with the VA specifically has been amazing so far. They call me more than I want them to, which is great. So it is making a difference. I think Anne's what she just said speaks to that as well. And thank you all for everything you've done so far.
Thanks for your service and congratulations.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I was an Air Force brat. Then I went into the Air Force myself, and I was in missile maintenance. And at that time, there was hardly any women, and I was the only woman in my class, all my classes. And then when I went to my job site that in South Dakota, there was one other lady there, but she was in a different office. Then she left. And so, I didn't mind being the only woman there. I bantered a lot, whatever I could give back, whatever they tried to give to me. And I like bantering. I still do that today with even my coworkers and stuff. But there was one guy there that thought he could take advantage of me. And I told him no. And I went to my supervisor at the time, because I knew how everything worked, So I went to him, I said, you got 3 days to fix this. If you don't fix this, I'm going above your head. And then I'll go whoever I need to go to get it fixed. And so he took care of it. And the guy came and apologized to me and never talked to me again, even though we worked in a small building. And so there's other females that came in after me. And so I tried to mentor them as best I could and told them there's always a way. There's always a way to, there's always an avenue to get things done. And don't allow yourself to be pushed around just because you're a female or just because you're a girl, whatever. And so, but for the most part, my experience in service was great. And I get teased sometimes by my coworkers here in the civilian world. They go, you still wish you were in the military, don't you? And I said, yes, because when you tell somebody to do something, they have to do it. No back talk, no nothing. And then I said, so go do your job. so I get teased about that. I don't care. So, but I do feel like a veteran, but like some of you ladies said, what you said, Linda, I feel like those services are for somebody else that needs it more than me, but I'm still a veteran, but I know, so I have to get that part out of my head, but thank you all ladies for serving. A lot of us did pave the way to people like Tori and Krista that are just getting out of the service or still serving. And I wished I had retired. Believe me, I got out early. Got out at 9.5 years because I just had my third child and it was really hard to continue working. I had crossed over to administration, and my last site was at March Air Force Base, and my boss there, he really liked me because I did my job. I went in and did my job, and I didn't, do all this other stuff my predecessor did. He didn't do his job. And so everybody there liked me in the weather squadron because I just did my job. And I said, I can't do it anymore because I would have had to travel. And I'm like, where were these jobs when I didn't have kids? I wanted to travel, but I said, I can't travel. And my boss said, if you stay, I'll do all the traveling. I'm like, I can't. I can't do everything right now. I can only do some things because I had 3 little kids. So, but anyway, I enjoyed my service, and I am always talking about being a veteran to people who are listening. So thank you, everyone. I'm done.
I love it. I love it.
Hey,
I love it. I
Linda,
love it.
can
Yes,
you
ma'am.
put your contact information in the chat? And then I'll
Okay.
also include it when I send the follow-up
Yeah, I was gonna
you know.
suggest I was either gonna email it to you and just have you send it out, or however you
Yeah.
wanted to do it.
Just
So
send it to me. And then ladies, I know some people have requested your contact info. So when I send out the link to the recording, I'll make sure to have Linda's contact info so you guys can connect with her. She is on East Coast time.
I am, but she'll talk to you just about any time of the day or
Yes,
night.
yes, she will.
So-
Yes.
But I put my Badass Lady Talk org email in, and my cell phone number's in there as well, ladies. So text me. We'll connect that way, or call me, or whatever. I have enjoyed every second of this. Melissa, thank you so much for inviting me. I have enjoyed hearing every single story, and I just want to thank you guys so much for everything that you've done. I'll tell you, it's good for this old girl's heart. It really is. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye, ladies.